The door of my room slid open before I even touched it, and I froze with a wrench still in my hand. Princess Vera stood in the frame, her guards behind her, and her eyes were already locked on the wall above my bed. My stomach dropped. I knew what she was looking at. I did not have time to hide it. I did not have time to explain it. She was already walking toward it, her boots hitting the metal floor with sharp, angry steps. "What is this?" she said, her voice flat and cold, pointing at the small painted board hanging on my wall. It was her. A portrait of her, painted by my own hand, from memory, months ago. Not the version of her that stood in front of crowds with a straight back and a hard face. This version had her head tilted down, her eyes closed, one hand pressed against her chest, standing alone in the garden behind the old research tower. I had seen her there by accident, on a night when I was fixing a broken pipe outside the tower. She did not know I was there. She thought she was completely alone. And for one small moment, she looked like a person carrying something heavy, not a princess ruling an empire. I painted that moment because I could not stop thinking about it. Now she was standing in my small room, staring at the proof that I had watched her when she believed no one could see her. "Explain it," she said again, sharper this time. "Now." Her guards stepped closer, their hands resting on the weapons at their sides. I felt my throat go dry. On this station, humans like me were workers, nothing more. We fixed pipes, wires, engines, and machines that the important people never noticed. We were not supposed to be noticed either, and here I was, caught with a secret painting of the most powerful woman on this station hanging over my bed like a confession. "I saw you," I said, my voice shaking a little, "by the garden. Months ago. I was not spying. I was fixing a pipe outside the wall, and I looked up and you were there. I did not mean to see it. I am sorry." "You painted me," she said, stepping closer to the wall, studying every line of the picture like she was trying to find a lie hidden inside it. "Without my permission, without my knowledge. You kept this image of me in a private moment, in your room, for months." I could not stop thinking about it, I admitted. I am not good with words, so I paint instead. That is all this is. I never showed it to anyone. I never told anyone what I saw that night. Her eyes moved from the painting to me, and for a moment I saw something flicker behind her cold expression. Not anger, something closer to shock. "No one has ever seen me like that," she said quietly. "Not even my own family. I made sure of it." "I did not plan to see it either," I said, "but once I did, I could not forget it. You looked tired, not like a princess, like someone carrying a weight no one else could see." Her jaw tightened. One of her guards stepped forward, his hand fully closing around the weapon at his hip. "Should I take him in for questioning, Your Highness?" the guard asked. She raised one hand without looking at him, and he stopped immediately. "Not yet," she said. She turned back to the painting, studying it in silence for a long moment. I stood there, not knowing if I was about to lose everything, or if something else was happening that I did not understand yet. "Every portrait of me in this empire," she said slowly, "shows the crown, the armor, the straight back and the hard eyes. Painters spend weeks trying to capture the perfect ruler. Not one of them has ever captured this." She lifted her hand and touched the edge of the frame, careful, like she was afraid the painting might disappear if she pressed too hard. "Why does it look like this?" she asked, her voice softer now. "Why did you paint me tired, and not strong?" "Because that was the truth of that moment," I said. "I did not paint what you show people. I painted what I saw. You looked human, if you do not mind me saying that. You looked like someone who needed a moment alone, and I gave you that moment by staying quiet and finishing my work instead of announcing myself." She was silent for a long time. The guards behind her shifted uncomfortably, clearly unsure what to do with a princess who was not giving orders. "You could have used this," she said finally. "You could have shown this to the council. You could have sold it. You could have used it to gain favor, or worse, to threaten me. Workers like you rarely get close enough to see someone like me without a mask on, and yet you kept it hidden in your own room, telling no one." "I did not paint it to use it," I said. "I painted it because I could not forget what I saw. That is the only reason." She looked at me then, really looked at me, in a way no one from her world ever had before. I was used to being invisible around people like her, fixing machines in hallways while important people walked past without a glance. I never expected a princess to look at me like I was actually standing there. "My guards reported an unauthorized image found in worker quarters," she said. "That report is already filed. If I ignore it, questions will be asked. If I confirm it as a threat, you will be taken away, and I doubt you would return." My chest tightened. I understood exactly what she meant. I had heard stories about what happened to workers who crossed lines they were never supposed to know existed. I understand, I said quietly. Whatever you decide, I will not fight it. But I want you to know, I never meant harm. I only meant to remember something I thought was beautiful. Something in her expression cracked slightly at that word. Beautiful. I do not think anyone had used that word about her in a very long time, at least not about a moment when she was not performing for a crowd. She turned to her guards. "Leave us," she said. They hesitated, glancing at each other, clearly not comfortable leaving her alone with a worker who had just been accused of something serious, but she did not repeat herself. She simply waited, and one by one, they stepped out into the hallway, closing the door behind them. We were alone. "You understand what you have done is dangerous," she said, turning back to face me. "Not because you painted me, because you saw something real, and real things are dangerous to people like me. My whole life is built on being seen a certain way. Strong. Untouchable. Perfect. If people ever saw me as tired, or lonely, or afraid, they would see a weakness they could use against my family. I never planned to show anyone," I said again. "I still do not plan to. If you want, I will destroy it right now, in front of you, so you know it is gone." I reached toward the wall, ready to take it down, but her hand shot out and caught my wrist before I could touch the frame. "No," she said quickly, then seemed almost surprised by her own reaction. She let go of my wrist and stepped back, composing herself again. "No," she repeated, quieter this time. "Do not destroy it." I lowered my hand slowly, confused. "You do not want it gone?" "I have hundreds of portraits of myself scattered across this empire," she said. "Statues, paintings, official records. Every single one of them shows the same face. The same posture, the same practiced calm. Not one of them shows a person, they show a symbol." She looked back at the small painting on my wall. "This is the only image in existence that shows me as I actually am. In a moment I cannot even fully explain myself. You captured something I did not even know anyone could see." "I only saw it because I was not supposed to be there," I said. "If I had been anywhere else that night, I never would have known." "Maybe that is exactly why it means something," she said. "You were not trying to see me. You were simply doing your work. And I happened to be there, unguarded for once. No one plans those moments. They just happen, and most people miss them completely." She stepped closer to the painting again, studying it with an expression I could not fully read. Something between sadness and relief. "I am going to tell my guards this was a misunderstanding," she said. "A study of a garden statue, nothing more. They will not question it if I say so." "Thank you," I said, relief flooding through me so fast I nearly stumbled. "But you will not paint me again without my knowledge," she added, her voice firm once more, back to the tone she used with everyone else. "Is that understood?" "Understood," I said quickly. She nodded, satisfied, then turned toward the door. But before she reached it, she paused, looking back at me one last time. "What is your name?" she asked. "I never learned it, even though half my station has probably walked past you 100 times without noticing." "Daniel," I said. "Daniel Whitfield." "Daniel," she repeated, like she was testing the sound of it. "You are the only person on this entire station who has ever painted me as something other than a title." She did not say anything else. She simply opened the door, walked out into the hallway, and left without another word, her guards falling into step behind her, as if nothing unusual had happened at all. I stood there for a long moment, staring at the closed door, my heart still pounding from everything that had just happened. Then I looked back at the painting on my wall, the quiet garden, the closed eyes, the tired shoulders of a woman the whole empire believed was untouchable. I had almost lost everything because of that small piece of canvas, and somehow, instead, I had gained something I never expected. Not fame, not reward, just the strange, quiet knowledge that somewhere in this empire, a princess who trusted no one had looked at the one true image of herself, and decided to let it exist. I never painted her again after that day, just as she asked. But every time I passed her in the hallways of the station, surrounded by guards and officials, wearing that same practiced, untouchable expression she showed the entire galaxy, I remembered the other version of her. The one only I had ever seen. The one that still hung quietly on my wall, safe and true, and completely, entirely mine to remember.